Hello, my name is Gwendolyn. In the last two series, we have had conversations on how we have inherited identity from different layers and what happens when any of them cracks. We want to have a conversation now on your authentic self. We've all heard it. Be yourself, follow your heart, live your truth. And it sounds beautiful. But I've got a slightly awkward question. Which version of me? Because I've had several. There's the confident me, there's the insecure me, there's the patient me, and there's me when somebody sends a ridiculous email on Monday morning. So when somebody says, just be yourself, I genuinely want to ask, which one? Because not everything I feel is necessarily who I am. And this is where the Christianity conversation about authenticity gets interesting. The world often describes authenticity as looking inward. Christianity makes a slightly different argument. It says, you were created. And if you were created, then the deepest truth about you doesn't begin with you. It begins with the one who designed you. Think about it. Imagine I found a very complicated piece of equipment. Lots of buttons, lights flashing, very expensive looking. And I wanted to understand what it was designed to do. I could stare at the equipment, or I could look at the label, or speak with the manufacturer. The person who designed it. Christian identity starts with the designer. And that's why I think we need to be careful with the phrase authentic self. Because my authentic self cannot simply be every desire, feelings, or every impulse I experience. Because if we are being honest, some of my feelings are terrible advisors. There are days I feel confident. There are days I question everything. And there are days I feel incredibly patient. And there are days when I think everyone should just leave me alone because I want to have my quiet moment. So which feeling gets to define me? The Bible is actually very honest about the human heart. It says we can deceive ourselves, want things that damage us, and even believe things that aren't true. And this is the part I find really interesting. Sometimes we develop behaviors from pain. And then we call those behaviors our personality. Let me say that again. Sometimes we call a coping mechanism our personality. I don't need anybody. Or maybe you learned very early that depending on people was dangerous. So now independence feels like safety. Maybe keeping everybody happy was how you kept the peace. And now years later, you still feel responsible for everybody's emotions. Perhaps something happened that taught you, if you are not in control, something bad might happen. When was the last time you said, I can't do this on my own? This is why discovering the authentic you requires honesty. Because sometimes the person we've been protecting is not the person God designed. It's the person being trained. And please hear me carefully. I'm not saying everything about you may be due to trauma. I'm not saying every personality trait needs analyzing. Sometimes you just don't like people. That's a different thing, and that's a different conversation. But I'm saying we need enough self-awareness to ask, is this who I am? Or is this how I learned to survive? Or is this personality as a result of the pain I've gone through? Because those are not always the same thing. And I think Jesus does something extraordinary. He doesn't erase personality, he redirects it. Look at the story of Paul. The same passion or intensity he applied in persecuting Christians was redirected to preach the gospel. Your authentic self may not be the unfiltered you, it may be the aligned you, the version of you whose personality, gifts, desires, and decisions are increasingly aligned with the one who created you. And if that's true, then becoming yourself may actually involve unlearning. Unlearning fear, performance, labels, survival, behaviors, the need to become a different person in every room. Because Christianity isn't asking us to go backwards and find some perfect, untouched version of ourselves. The goal isn't to become 8 years old again. The question is about awareness. What have I picked up along the way that I have mistaken for my identity? I don't think God is asking you to manufacture a new personality. I think He wants access to the person underneath all the armor. Not so He can destroy who you are, but so He can reveal what was His design and what was simply survival. So this week, here's what I want you to do. Catch yourself the next time you say, that's just who I am, and ask one more question. Is it really who I am? Or is it something I learned to become? In the next part of this identity series, we are going to answer the question we've been circling from the beginning. If I'm not my job, my background, my pain, my family, my role, or simply every feeling I experience, then who am I? And what does God actually say? We will look at only 4 words in our next series, and that I call the Christianity version of your identity. Stay tuned.